Hello, and welcome to Caffeine Entertainment. I'm your host, Mental 9R, and this is episode number 10. Yeah, last time I'll be able to do that. Episode number 10 of the GMX podcast, and I am here, as always, with my good buddy and cohort, partner in crime, Fin Tin Tin. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you? I haven't talked to you for like 10 minutes.
At least 10 minutes. And if you're wondering why it's like that, it's because we did record our backlogs and replay episode about 10 minutes ago. So, yeah, anyway. So what are you playing? Because I'm sure this video will be posted before the other one, but...
So, Death's Door, of course, and also the final chapter of FC24. It's coming to the end of the season. Now it's actually called pre-season as we're getting ready for FC25. So that's been, I think there's another couple of weeks of it when they still have events and whatnot, and then it's basically it's going to die a slow, long death as people migrate to FC25.
Yeah. Huh. I'm really glad I don't have to worry about that. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. But so that's it. Yeah. Just your FC again and some Death's Door that, I'm not going to spill the beans on what Finn thought of Death's Door, but definitely worth checking out our backlogs and replay episode to get the lowdown on that one.
I guess one other thing as well. Sorry to interrupt, but there is one other thing or two other things I tried out. We spoke about this before, not doing a full review now, but I did try a couple of games on the Fire Stick as well. Tried Starfield,
cool.
And I thought Starfield might be a bit of a strain for it, and I think it was quite a bit of a strain for it. And so I tried a little bit, one that was I thought would be a little bit less intensive, which was I was with my kids, so I did some Lego Drive 2K. That was pretty good, actually. Okay. It worked pretty well on the Fire Stick. Starfield was a bit of it was slow. It was slow. The graphics were noticeably worse. But I could say, for Drive 2K, it's like, yeah, I could play this, and it could be fun, right?
How far away is, I'm assuming you're using wireless. You don't have the Ethernet attachment. Okay.
Yeah.
How far away? What's the router? I guess signal strength like.
I got a mesh in here, and it's from the base mesh. It's no more than I want to say 10 feet.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. And it's Wi-Fi 6, right? Wi-Fi 6?
Yeah, I found Starfield very, very slow to start up, even to the point where I was like, geez, is there something wrong with this? And then eventually when it did, it wasn't too bad. But yeah, the graphics were noticeably, I felt, grainy.
Well, I think that's because they stream it at 1080p. You're not getting the 4K display.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably something to do with that. Was there any artifacting or breakup in the image, or?
Yeah, I felt like there was. I mean, as I said, I'm not doing a full review of this. I didn't play for that. I just wanted to see how does it look. And so I tried out Drive 2K first, and that looked fine. I think it kind of looked a bit like you'd expect a 360 game to look. I think I'm not sure what genre 2K was from. I think it's a relatively new game. But I found Starfield. I mean, I have to go back. I didn't do a side-by-side comparison or anything. But I felt Starfield looked quite grainy. But it worked. I was still impressed that it worked. And I don't mean this to sound negative at all, because I was saying to my kids, I mean, he's only 8, so it wasn't a very in-depth conversation. I was like, can you believe this? Can you believe that this is what they can do these days? And of course, to my 8-year-old kid, all this shit is all stuff that should always be there forever and ever. And he's never known anything different. But for someone who grew up with starting off with a 386 or whatever back in the day, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, it's the technology. It is surprisingly good. I've played a little bit with mine too, and it's not perfect. I had the odd stutter, but my router, it's basically right beside it, 5-6 feet away, similar to you. So Wi-Fi wasn't bad. I would like to try it on Ethernet. I know there's a little USB-C thing they sell that has an Ethernet port. I've got a few of my own devices like that I was thinking I could try plugging in, see if it recognizes it and just works. Maybe that's something I'll try and do over the next week or something, but just to see how that works, because I've heard it's quite good. But again, it all comes down to distance from data centers and junk and the
They're still going
latency
with.
that's inherent to that. So
Yeah, I have a couple of devices what I could try, but the only problem with these guys is that they're still using, for some reason, micro USB. They're not on the USB C yet, so I don't think I have any compatible devices.
yeah, I would have to, like, I've got a little USB-C to micro USB adapter. Um, so I could try that, I guess, see if it works. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, though, I'd say for somebody, we both, I think, got it on the Prime sale, so it was like $50 or
Mhm.
whatever. And for that, it's a tenth of the cost of a console. Well, actually, it's because consoles are so expensive in Canada. It's less than a tenth of a cost of
Yeah.
a
Oh,
console. Uh,
I would
it's
definitely use it
probably not
again.
bad.
I think I would
Yeah,
definitely use it again. I think I just wouldn't play everything on it. I don't think it's the type of thing for a first person shooter, for example.
yeah,
But
yeah,
for kind of more casual games, like I say, like some of the Lego games that my kid likes, and
yeah.
I don't know, little
Like throw it
platformers,
on a
whatever.
second TV or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like
Yeah,
I
something
it
like
would be
that.
fine. It would be fine.
Yeah, for sure. Well, why don't we get on with the show maybe? I mean, I was playing Death's Door too. If anybody's interested, I've been playing a bit of Flintlock and Death's Door and still jumping into Assassin's Creed Odyssey occasionally. I've been keeping that going a bit in the background. Haven't got too much beyond where I was before when I lost my game save way back when, but still kind of have this dream that maybe I'll finish that one day. I don't know. But it's an enjoyable game. It's pretty decent. So, hey, Finn, have you picked up Star Wars Outlaws?
I haven't. I like Star Wars. I have not. I've played a few of the more recent Star Wars games. I know you liked Fallen Order quite a bit. I could not
Yep.
get into it. Uh,
What?
yeah, I think that's a game
Really?
that maybe we'll come back to or something at some point because. But yeah, I haven't, and it's been on my radar, but I haven't tried it. It's
I
still
think
pretty
it's
new
in
though.
Game Pass, or it was in
Sorry.
Game
Oh,
Pass.
sorry. Fallen Order. You mean?
I think so.
Oh yeah, that is. But I was talking about this game is pretty new. Like the
Oh yeah, no, this one's new. Yeah, sorry, I my mind got stuck on Fallen Order when you said that you didn't like it.
I,
It's like,
I didn't say I didn't like it. I said I didn't get into it. Like I kind of started it, and it's one of my great crosses I have to bear. It has to grab me at the start, and I think there's a scene near the start of it, and you're on some type of you're in a construction area, something is collapsing, you have to jump from thing, and some of those things I just find like just a bit
it
long-winded.
was kind of like Uncharted in that respect. I get what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, oh, like let's can we get over this and just get on with the game, and sometimes when I
yeah,
when I when I hit one of those scenes first, same thing with Red Dead Redemption 2. When I hit one of those things first, I'm like, oh man, I'll come back to it, and I never did.
yeah. There's like you gotta sort of do this freaking. It's not like a puzzle, but you're jumping from thing to thing and climbing around
Why
and
did
trying to.
why would
Yeah,
but
it
why
was
would you
just I
design a
don't know.
game like that? Like why I don't quite get the mindset. Maybe they think
Yeah,
that people have a attention span longer than 2 minutes or something. But they're mistaken
yeah.
in my
I don't know.
case.
Anyway,
So, but yeah.
I don't
So
know. Anyway, so Star Wars Outlaws, I didn't get it. I don't subscribe to the what is it, Ubisoft Connect Plus or whatever they call it, which is required for a game like this in my mind because I don't know, man. Do you see the prices on this thing? The ultimate version in Canada is like $180 for this game.
Ubisoft
Absolutely
have been doing that
insane. I
quite a
think.
while, right? Like they're all the Assassin's Creed games are the same at launch as well. Like all these extra special editions of it, and I can never quite figure out what's in which edition. Like it's kind of stupid.
Yeah, it's not only stupid, it's just the pricing's insane to me. Like, I'm sorry, Ubisoft. I just I'm not paying that kind of money for an Ultimate Edition. I feel a bit offended when I see in Canada the Ultimate is like $130. That's too much. But here we pay $90 for a standard edition, and I think this game for some reason it was like close to 130 for the standard edition or something. I'm just
Jeez.
actually trying to launch Ubisoft Connect just so I can look at it to refresh my memory, but it's stupid expensive, and it really seemed like that was where a lot of the outrage for this game came from. Like it really upset a lot of people, the pricing structure on it, and it seemed like their sole intent was to push you towards not buying the game, but signing up for their subscription service instead.
Mm.
And I tell you, so actually, I'm just looking. It is $90 in Canada for the standard edition. I thought it was higher, so maybe that was like the deluxe. But uh,
But even
yeah,
still,
the gold edition's $144.99, so it's worse than I thought. But it's like $170 for the ultimate. It's crazy.
but it's like I said about the Ubisoft games there a while back, and specifically around Assassin's Creed. Why I always wait for the game of the year or the premium or gold or silver or whatever the hell they're calling it these days edition. I don't like paying full price for games in general; they're quite expensive. But as well as
Yeah,
which, don't make me pay $90 for half the game. I'm sorry, that's just BS if you ask me.
yeah. It is. It is. It's insulting, and I think this is where the game industry is gonna hopefully realize that it's just not a good idea. Because I think that you see this more and more that games sales aren't meeting expectations. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll be seeing a little bit more of that as our last topic in the show. But anyway, this one I find kind of funny because the players that did go out and spend the big bucks for the gold or ultimate edition, they got early access to it by a few days. And or I guess maybe this includes, I would assume it includes the people that subscribe to their service for $20 a month, Canadian. I don't know what it is in the States, probably 15 or something. But anyway, they go in early and they play for a few days, only to find out there's a patch that gets released and they have to restart the game because it screws up their save. And I just find that type of stuff, and call me crazy, it just seems a little inexcusable to me. Uh, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I just find this ridiculous at this point. And I don't know why it's only PlayStation 5. I don't know.
Yeah,
Doesn't sound like it affected Xbox players at all. Uh,
they said it
is it
didn't specifically in the article. Did not affect PC
okay?
Xbox players. I mean, inexcusable, maybe a little bit strong. I guess it's a game at the end of the day, but I did find that it almost seems like probably a little bit lazy from their perspective, like that they couldn't have figured out a way. Even if they changed something that was fairly fun, I don't quite get why it would be different on the PS5 versus the Xbox. Maybe something to do with the architecture or whatever. But either which way, I find it like, you know, could you not have figured out a way for you to maintain this to save out, even if something had changed fairly significantly in the underlying
Well,
code? Yeah, it was a bit lazy, I would have thought, and it's not going to. I mean, the only thing I can say and this is not to defend them, but the reason it probably won't hurt them that much is that probably not that many people got the early access version of it, so maybe not that many people would be upset. But if you were one of the loyal people who had gotten it early and then you were kind of screwed over, it would be upsetting for sure.
oh, I would be pissed off. I would probably ask for a refund just because that's the kind of guy I am. These things really upset me. But especially like, let's say you took time off work and you played hardcore for 3 days like it was a job. Well, you can have 20 plus hours into the game at that point and have to start over. I'd be a little choked personally, but I
Don't
don't know.
kick
Like,
any
I'm trying to
soccer
think of.
balls into Mike's backyard.
Oh, bloody hell no. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not, I don't get upset about that type of stuff, but I don't know. This would bug me, but I'm just trying to think of what sort of issue you could run into. Like, I'm assuming they probably have some sort of tables for tracking progression and what you're doing. Like, it probably stores it in some sort of a database, maybe. But even if they updated table structure or something that you can migrate that. Like, you should be
Yeah,
able to do whatever sort of install that would break compatibility. You should be able to fix it somehow, I would think, but who
that's
knows?
why I think it was probably a little bit lazy. I think there was, and the fact
Yeah,
that it didn't affect the PC and the Xbox suggests that there was something about the code base for the PS5 for whatever reason that was a little bit different and made it a little bit more cumbersome to do that migration or compatibility or whatever. But it sounds like they
yeah,
could have done it. Like if it weren't in another system, I mean, if they had done something to the game that was so fundamental, like you had some type of vehicle at the start, and now you're no longer going to have that type of vehicle, so all your progress around that vehicle has got to be lost, whatever. I mean, I wouldn't say it was good, but it's like it should affect all the systems the same. this seems a bit weird.
Yeah.
And as I say, someone dropped a ball here, I think.
Yeah, no, it just seems completely bizarre to me that this is a thing in this day and age, but uh, hey, what do I know? But anyway, well, that's all I got to say on that. I think it's both funny and incredibly irritating, and I can see why maybe like Ubisoft stock has been taking a beating too. I think their peak was up around $93. They're down to around 17, $18 now US. So this isn't going to help with their branding probably when you have things like this and people pissed off at them. But anyway, that's all I got to say there. Next topic. I thought this one would be interesting for you primarily because I know you're a Fallout fan. I don't know if you played the originals, but free now on the Epic Games Store is the Fallout Collection, which I believe is Fallout 1, 2, and Tactics. Yeah, it says right there. And the other stuff I thought you might be interested in is this Football Manager 2024 coming soon. I don't know if that's different. I'm assuming that's different than FC24. I think this one is one where you build teams. I don't know much about this crap, but I thought you would be interested. Am I crazy?
You're not crazy. I just said I was going to throw some noob comments at you there, but like, is this the same as FC24? But
no, I said I'm assuming it isn't the same. So.
Yeah, but anyway, oh yeah, it's exactly the same, Mike. Exactly the same. You wouldn't tell anyone who says different, they're just BSing you. But yeah. So first of all, on Fallout, the first Fallout game I played was Fallout 3. And you were actually the one who turned me on to that back in the Xbox. And it was one of, I mentioned before the show, when we were looking at our backlogs and replays, I often look at my PS5 because that's where my biggest library is. Well, maybe Steam is maybe similar, but my biggest console library is definitely on the PlayStation. So I tend to play games there more than the Xbox. But because Fallout was so crappy on the PlayStation, I bought Fallout 3 on the Xbox, one of the first games I bought on whatever generation of Xbox that was. So I've enjoyed that one a lot, but I believe the first 3 games are completely different games. Nothing, I mean, obviously they're in the same universe.
For sure, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, free is free. I'll pick it up. I'll take a peek at it, but I have no idea whether or not it's the kind of thing I'd be interested in, quite honestly.
Yeah, and I can say I've played a little bit of the first one, and definitely not my kind of game. But it's more of a top-down, click and go kind of thing. Like I forget what they call it, but you click your mouse and the guy walks over there and stuff.
Back in the day, they used to call those isometric games, I think. But
yeah, it reminds me of like the first Dungeon Siege, which oddly enough I really liked back in the day. So somewhere within me, I guess, resides the ability to play these types of games without getting incredibly bored and frustrated. But maybe one day I'll go back and try it again. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a backlogs and replay episode after Finn has his new PC built. But yeah, it's I think interesting.
And as regards Football Manager 2024, so you probably will have gathered based on the way Mike it takes these little jabs at me whenever I bring up FC24 or FIFA or whatever. These are very, for me at least, anyway, very, very immersive games. It's like I won't even begin to describe how many hours I put into FC24. I will probably not get FC25 for that reason. I need a break from it. And Football Manager, I've gotten a few of those back in the past, like much earlier editions. You don't really, at least in the ones I played, you don't play the game itself. You're the manager. You're literally looking to buy players for the transfer market, looking to put in team tactics, get the best players for the best positions, et cetera, trying to make money for your club, make your club be promoted through the divisions and whatnot. You could spend a lot of time in there. And when I think of these games, I think, yeah, not a good idea. Not a good idea for me. So I'm sure it's very good. These games tend to be well reviewed. The Football Manager series, they're a bit of a niche product, I guess, and they are definitely my type of thing, but not good for my health, is all I can say.
Yeah. I can relate to the addiction because of Destiny. I mean, it was basically all I played for 6 years, and best thing I ever did was quit playing that game because I've been able to enjoy so many other ones. But yeah, so back to the Fallout topic. While I was looking at that, I found some other interesting little tidbits along that. And then Finn found some other stuff too. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about that as well. And one of the things is that Fallout may be coming sooner than a lot of people expected. The next Fallout, that is Fallout 5. And it's kind of interesting. And I've heard the guys on the Xbox 2 talk about this before, possible solutions to a development cycle that can be excruciatingly long if it's just Bethesda, because they're working on the Elder Scrolls 6 primarily at the moment, which would mean if you look at a 5 to 6 year development cycle, that could push Fallout out to 2030 even probably. And so the rumor is, I guess, that they've been looking at other ways to potentially accelerate this. One way, which I've heard talked about before, would be to give it to Obsidian to do the work for Fallout 5, and that's probably a pretty good fit because they are the guys that did Fallout New Vegas. You played New Vegas, right?
Yeah, and it was an
Yeah,
amazing
so
game
did I.
actually. One of the best in
Yeah,
the series.
yeah, exactly. So, Obsidian is working on Avowed along with the Outer Worlds 2 at the moment, but I think Avowed's due to be released in January or early next year anyway. It was delayed a bit, but I don't know where they're at with the Outer Worlds 2. All we've really seen from that is a trailer a couple of years ago that just said, hey, it's coming. I really enjoyed the Outer Worlds, but I'm assuming they probably have two teams anyway.
Mm.
So maybe once Avowed is dropped, that team could start working on Fallout 5 right away. It's hard to know, I guess. I haven't read this whole article. I don't know if you did. Maybe I'm
I did,
talking
yeah.
out of my ass here.
Yeah,
But
no. What I found surprising, and I guess it's more interesting topics about the business of games. And there's a whole bunch of things you could say about this. But one thing that jumped out at me, well, okay, I'll try to do it. I didn't prepare notes for this, but so first and
yeah,
foremost, I think you and I both said at the time, I feel like the success of the Fallout game or Fallout TV series rather, kind of caught Xbox or Microsoft with their pants down a little bit.
yeah,
They sold the rights or whatever, and I don't think they expected it because even you and I were both saying you would expect some type of Fallout event, a gaming event to coincide with this, and there was nothing. And then
yeah,
there's some things afterwards, which really made it feel like they either were, I don't know, they were caught sleeping, or they didn't expect it to be the success it was, or option C, whatever that is. So that's one thing. I think it's going to be difficult for them to recover. Maybe in time for season 2, they'll have something. But these games have such a long cycle, as you just mentioned. It's not like
yeah,
you can wait for the game to be a success and then start running. It's too late then. You got to be doing
yeah,
it in parallel if you think the game. And I would assume Microsoft were at least, even if they weren't involved in the filming of it, they must have been aware of who they were casting for it, what type of story it was, how things were going. They should have been pretty aware as to, hey, this thing could have legs here. We need to be
for
ready
sure.
if this takes off. And as you see, and then one of the other articles I sent you. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place here. There's a lot to digest, I guess. But as you see in one of the other articles, like I think the gaming numbers for Fallout 76, they didn't just go up a bit; they like exponentially went up along
Yeah,
with the Fallout series. So I think they were caught with their pants down a little bit, as I said. But it's going to be difficult to recover. That's probably 4 topics there. I just comment. And the other thing then
for
as
sure.
well is that I find it almost surprising. It's not like it doesn't make sense when you think about it, but whether it's Bethesda or Obsidian or whomever, it's funny how single threaded they are in a way, right? Like it's like they're all in on one game.
Yeah,
And we've talked a lot about the industry and some of the troubles it's been having, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why. Like we talked about the budget for GTA 6 a couple of weeks ago, and it was just insane. So you can imagine the
yeah,
amount of work that's going into these things. But even still, if you're all in one game and that's it, man, this game has got to be successful. Otherwise, you're like, if you've been working on one thing for 4 or 5 years and it fails or doesn't do well, you're really pretty screwed, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I was a bit surprised in a way. I kind of assumed like, and even you heard with Bethesda as well, right? Like they're Elder Scrolls or whatever, and so that Fallout's gonna be waiting for that, and Starfield finishes so that another bunch can start. And I was like, yeah, like you would have expected, in the kind of business that you and I have been in, you would expect like five,
Yeah.
6, 7 projects to be going on concurrently, but I guess you just don't have the
Sure.
manpower for something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting strategy. Like that's the size that they are, you would think they would have multiple like medium-sized teams probably working on different things, but maybe they're taking the approach of just throw everybody at one thing and get it done as fast as we can, which is kind of a scary thought that it always takes them a really long time to make a game. So,
I think
uh,
even they mentioned it, Microsoft mentioned, I think it was maybe Spectre mentioned it, like when
Spencer.
or Spencer, sorry. Oh, I keep on thinking of Mark Spector, who I think is one of the alter egos of Moon
Uh,
Knight, the Marvel
yeah,
character. Every hear Phil Spencer, I think Mark Spector. I don't know why. I don't know.
that's
Word
funny.
association, I guess. But
Yeah,
they mentioned that when they launched Starfield, I thought a core team was going to stay with it. You know, they and obviously you can see stuff continues to come out. But yeah, like I agree with you. It's kind of a crazy, scary strategy, and it's one of the reasons that I kind of like to support indie games because I'm like. It seems more sustainable, I guess, right? Like that to be
yeah,
working on a few projects that maybe each take a couple of years versus one thing that's going to be 5 years. It's so much riding on it. It's crazy risky.
yeah. No, it is an interesting strategy, and I don't know. I guess we'll see, but I think this is kind of cool as well. Just the possibility of potentially having playable ghouls in Fallout 5. I thought this was an interesting, an interesting addition to it if it's true, and I'm assuming it clearly comes from the TV series, and that the ghoul being one of the main characters in it.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Prospects look good for what they could actually do with Fallout 5. But I don't know. I should probably finish playing Fallout 4 first before it comes
Yeah,
out.
how
But
dare you, heathen! But yes,
yeah, yeah,
I mean, if they really they could do some pretty cool, like in Starfield, you had different qualities depending on where you came from. But what I found
yeah,
is that it just mainly ended up being dialogue options and stuff. Like it wasn't fundamental to the game. If they really took the whole ghoul thing to the extreme, you'd have healing powers, and maybe you'd have to get some
yeah.
medication to stop yourself turning more rabid or whatever they call it. Yeah, so it definitely
Feral.
has some like feral. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah,
But yeah, one thing I noticed as well, just by the by, when I clicked on Starfield, I think it just reminded me there when you showed me this, because I think some people, either with Fallout 76 or with Fallout 4, some modders in the PC community have already made Ghouls playable characters. I noticed in the Starfield game that they seem to be enabling people, even on the Xbox console, to have mods, which I thought is pretty cool. And something that we've
yeah,
not seen before. So that's again another reason to go back to Starfield, see what they've got going on.
yeah. For sure, for sure. Alrighty. Well, Fallout's looking promising. Let's move on to the next topic, which is everyone's favorite PS5 Pro. Uh, yeah, it sounds like it's it still hasn't been confirmed by Sony, but that's the funny part. They haven't come out and said, "Hey, this is coming," but it does sound like there's going to be a launch soon where they actually will be revealing it.
Mhm.
And I think I saw somewhere that the talking about a launch date for it where you can actually buy it will be in November. Now, I don't know. We've talked about this before and the specs and the different things about it. It looks like the design is based obviously on the current PlayStation. Love it or hate it, that's what you're going to get. I was hoping for something a little different, to be perfectly honest, but it'll be interesting to see how big it is, I guess, compared to the slim models. I've heard that the base system will be $600 US with
Mm.
no disk drive, and
Mm.
that there will be a $700 version that comes with a disk drive.
Mm.
Uh,
I wonder
sounds kind of
this
bizarre to me, but
what kind of disk drive costs $100 in parts. But anyway, yeah.
well, this is it. I'm not sure if maybe there just will only be the diskless version, and then it'll
Mm.
use the add-on drive that you can use with the Slim. Like if you buy a digital-only Slim these days,
Yeah,
and you decide later, oh shoot, I really wish I had that drive. You can buy a drive and marry it to that system.
I think that was the suggestion of this article or the supplementary article. I kind of giggled to myself
Yeah,
there, and I don't even know who this dude is who's done the. But like it was the most, and people can probably say the same about us. It was the most non-news story I've ever seen. Number one, PlayStation
yeah,
Pro is going to come out. It's called the PlayStation Pro, and look, we got a sick look at their design, and here it is. Hey, it's exactly the same as the one
yeah,
you already got. But yeah, it's well, I guess the one thing he did say is that usually Sony do tend to do these reveals around this time of year rather. So maybe it is
yeah.
coming soon. But yeah, looks exactly the same as the PlayStation, and yeah, it's probably going to be called the PlayStation Pro. Quelle surprise!
Yeah, it's I mean, imagine $700 in Canada. That's going to be $1,000 system after tax for you folks in Ontario, where you pay a lot more tax than we do here. But even still, I mean, it'd probably make it $8.99 probably as a list price. They might even go, or sorry, yeah, they might even go $9.29 or something like that with exchange rates plus tax. Seems a little extreme. I'm assuming you want a disk drive, but maybe you don't care. Knock $130 off. You'd pay
Yeah,
$800 plus tax. I mean,
I don't care that much. I haven't.
pretty
I don't
pricey.
buy
Pretty
nearly as many
pricey.
games as you do physically. I don't
Yeah,
care that much about that. Um, I, I guess I don't care what it's going to be called either, and I don't care what it's going to look like that much. I kind of care what the hardware upgrade is and how much better games are going to be on it. So I think the jury's still out for me. I don't think I'm in the market for a PS5 Pro just yet, but let's see. Let's see what they do. Maybe they'll blow us away with the double or triple or quadruple the specs, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
yeah. I mean, realistically, I think the leaks from Sony were that you're looking at a 45% sort of increase in performance, and that's just because of disparate architectures, and the teraflop numbers get bloated with dual SMID pipelines and crap. So reality is it's kind of more equivalent to around a 16 teraflop system, 16 and a half, 17 teraflops, somewhere in there, based on what the Sony's 10.28 is, right, or the
Yeah.
current PS5's 10.28. So
I don't think
fairly
that's enough.
significant uptick, but
Yeah,
um,
I'd have to
the
see how that
CPU is the
translates into
problem.
games, though, right? Like, and if the
Yeah.
games aren't significantly better on it, uh, I don't think I'm in the market for it.
Yeah, and the CPU, historically, at least so far with this generation, the CPU's been the problem when it comes to frame rate anyway. The 60 frames, got to have it at least. It's been the bottleneck for pretty much every single game that hasn't been able to hit it. It's very rarely GPU, and they got the big increase on GPU and only a minor increase on CPU. So
But do you think
it's hard to say. Time will tell.
why aren't they focusing on the CPU if that's the problem?
Good question. Good question. It's hard to say. I think I will give Sony credit. Most of their first party games have had a 60 FPS mode. But the thing is, a lot of those, like even if you look at God of War and you look at Spider-Man, they're really built off the last gen engine, so it's not surprising. They're not running any Unreal 5 engine based games right now. So I'll be curious to see when they actually have true next gen without any of this, up or fixed up versions from PS4 essentially, to see what they end up with. But I think there's some advantages that maybe they get from running in a Linux based environment or I think it's based on FreeBSD, their operating system. And we see that oddly with the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck scales better than it really should in comparison to Windows handheld devices that are theoretically twice as powerful. And again, it's just there's some inherent advantages. One of the things that came out just recently is AMD has had, we'll call it a bug that hasn't enabled their branch prediction pipeline to be as effective as it should be on Windows. And there's a patch coming out for Windows 11 that will fix that. And when it's fixed, I've already seen some early benchmarks. Some games are seeing as much as 30% increases in frame rate, which is insane. Absolutely bizarre to me that you would get that much of an improvement. And then a lot of games, it seems like, you're in the 10% range for the most of them, which again is a huge improvement. And, you got to wonder if it's going to affect Xbox. I don't know. I know for sure it affects Zen 3, 4, and 5. Zen 2, I'm not sure. But it may. I don't know.
You know yourself, though, like in computing, like when there's contention on one resource, it can slow everything else down. So maybe it's realistic,
Absolutely.
Right? Everyone else, all the other components are waiting for this one component. They're all giving it jobs. It's not getting through them quickly enough, and it causes slowdown everywhere. Yeah. So yeah, maybe it's but yeah, like it is bizarre to me. Like I'm not as, I guess I don't read as many of the tech manuals as you do, but it is bizarre to me that if the CPU really is the problem, why are you going on about increasing the GPU,
Yeah, the big issue on the CPU side has been poorly optimized engines based on DirectX 11 from the old days that are only using 4 of the 16 threads. And really 2 primary threads with 2 secondaries. So you end up in a situation where you can't push the data fast enough to keep the GPU pipeline occupied. And you get frame drops. And then, inevitably, 6 months later, you get a performance patch. Happened with Redfall, happened with Plague Tale Requiem, happened with Starfield. And you get the performance patch down the road, and suddenly, oh, hey, look, it's threading way better now. It's using 16 threads, and suddenly you get 60 frames per second. So, Sony, I think, has done a better job of that in making sure that there's no bottleneck there initially at launch. And I think that's one area where Microsoft has dropped the ball a lot. And Avowed being announced with 30 frame per second at launch, bet you anything it's the same issue. I don't know why they can't just get their act together and fix it before launch.
So is it what doesn't make sense to me there, and sorry if we're boring everyone, but what doesn't make sense to me there is that if it was like the fundamental core engine that everything was built upon, yeah, I can see that. But when each individual game has it, and each individual game can fix it, where they keep on repeating the same mistake. You think like once they fixed it once,
there's no excuse.
That seems bizarre to me. But I guess we have to. Maybe it goes back to your topic that we spoke about earlier. These game development cycles are so long. Maybe they start off before there's a fix, and then everything is built on bad foundations from the ground up. I don't know.
Could be. It'll be interesting to see with Bethesda. Do these creation engine optimizations make it into something like Elder Scrolls 6 Day 1? Is there going to be 60 frames per second? I would be extremely disappointed if it isn't. I'm assuming they're using their creation engine. They should really move on, though. That Bethesda face thing is getting a little insane at this stage in the game. It doesn't look very next gen. But anyway, one more topic for this episode, and that is Square Enix to double down on Xbox releases. Final Fantasy XIV producer says. Apparently, Final Fantasy XIV has done quite well on Xbox. They haven't, at least I didn't see any sales numbers in here on it, but they said it was met with a really strong response and is just a starting point for more Square Enix games to launch on the platform. I think there's a lot of people that are going to be really happy about this because there's a lot of Final Fantasy fans on Xbox that have been more than just a bit annoyed with the fact that games like Final Fantasy VII Remake hasn't made it to Xbox yet, even though it was only supposed to be a 1-year timed exclusive to PlayStation. There's been rumors, I don't know if any of them have ever been verified, that Sony went back and handed Square more money to keep it on PlayStation longer and keep it off Xbox. Sony loves to money hat like that, so I wouldn't be surprised. But Square has announced that they're just not going to do that anymore. The exclusiveness isn't working well, and they're just not making the bank that they thought they would by putting things exclusively on PlayStation. So that CEO from that era is gone. They've got a new CEO, and they are not going to do it anymore. They're going to put their games everywhere, and it makes sense from a business perspective, much like Xbox is taking that approach and putting more games on PlayStation 5. I think eventually, we could see a future where that's just the case, where all games are everywhere. It depends how greedy they are, right? And it depends if Xbox survives. But their sales aren't looking too hot right now. But let's assume they do, and have a reasonable install base. You should be seeing games coming everywhere, and I think that's good just for the health of all gaming communities. Bye, Finn. I don't know where you went, but I guess you got really bored with this topic. I'll watch and see if he comes back. Maybe he will. Oh, I think he's actually texting me. Let's see if that's him. Oh, yeah. Something went wrong. Oh, he lost power to his PC and it just shut off. So he's rebooting. But yeah, I'll be doing another video about the future of Xbox and what I think is the direction they should take. I've talked about this before. I talked about it way back in GMX episode 1. And what I think they should do. I've talked about it on the Bull Sitting podcast over at TSWS Gaming. Great guys, by the way. You should check them out if you haven't already. And I've talked about it with the guys at the Game Complainers, another great group of guys to check out their streams. They're usually just live streams only. They don't typically put out videos, but they do stream a lot. So definitely check them out. And I'm starting to see other content creators talk about this stuff too, and what Xbox could do to actually make a go of it next gen, because their sales are kind of bad, and it's encouraging to see Square at least committing to Xbox. I think that's good. I do think that they need to do something fairly drastic to rectify the situation when it comes to their console sales. I mean, I get it, the software end of it. It's going to be fine. Xbox will be fine on the software front. In fact, they're going to probably be the biggest in the industry. It's when it comes to everything else that I think it's a problem. It's hard to have, I think, a platform without a hardware platform. So I don't know, or maybe they don't care. Hard to know, but they have stated they're well into the development cycle of their next console. They're planning on releasing another console. The question is, what will that console be? And I'll do a dedicated video on that just to talk a bit about it. Maybe I'll pull up some of the clips of some of the things I said way back in February. I just found it really interesting to see the likes of Destin talking about it almost verbatim, the stuff that I talked about 6 months ago. And OnoX Alex, in a video about a week ago, said something very similar, if not the same. And I also saw a video by a guy called Chaos Lounge is the channel, and he had a little extra take on it too from that expanded a little bit on what I talked about or have been talking about now for over 6 months. So I thought I would review a bit of that idea as well, because I think it's pretty good, and I think it does make sense what he's saying. So, and Finn's back. So I'll shut up. I've just kind of been going on about this and the future of Xbox a little bit, and how this is encouraging to see Square commit to bringing their games day one to Xbox. And I thought I'll let you talk about it and give your thoughts now, because I've rambled on the whole time you've been rebooting. Do you have any thoughts on this? Oh. Can you hear me? I love the professional level of
I can hear
production.
You. Sorry, just my
okay.
We got
Is it laggy?
No, it's I had a little power cut there, a sudden power cut. Like we were having some pretty good rain and lightning going on, and I just everything just switched off for a second or two, and but now we're back. But can you hear me?
Yep, go for it.
Oh yeah, so I have no idea what you were just talking about for the last 5 minutes, but I will say that I found, first of all, it's good news. I think you want to see as much competition as possible, as we keep on saying. We want to keep Sony honest. I did find it kind of strange as you say, like maybe there's a lot of Final Fantasy fans on the Xbox community. I found that one thing is a little bit contradictory. A little bit in the article was that they were focusing on how these type of games, Square Enix games, but more particularly Final Fantasy, are typically more successful in Japan and Asia, and the Xbox doesn't really sell well in Japan and Asia. So maybe the Final Fantasy fans on Xbox are a bit of an anomaly, but it didn't really compute to me as to, okay, so if where these games really sell well is in Asia, and there's not a lot of games or not a lot of consoles, Xbox consoles sold in Asia, why does it make such a big difference to the sales numbers for Final Fantasy? But again, maybe the Final Fantasy community on the Xbox is a bit of an anomaly, not typical. I always think of Square Enix games being more PlayStation-y type games, quite honestly. But yeah, it's good news overall.
Yeah, I think it's good. You want to see healthy competition. You want to see healthy platforms, and when you have third parties putting things exclusively on one platform over another, it's not going to help that competition. And I think it's good for Sony because it pushes them a bit, and it's good for Xbox because hopefully it helps their platform survive, even though it has. That's one of the things I was talking about is, just it doesn't look great. Their sales numbers are down, and with their strategy of putting things elsewhere, it's going to be a tough go. So we'll have to wait and see what their next Xbox looks like. But I just, I'll do a video on that just with some thoughts. And it's interesting to see some of those ideas being picked up by other content creators. But hopefully it results in a healthy platform, because we want that competition, I think. And you need that healthy competition so they push each other and it keeps prices in check. The funny thing is that, PlayStation, I think it was like $90. They raised the price on the PS5 in Japan. It was a substantial price increase. It's $60 or $90. And it's, I think, if I'm not crazy, the PlayStation's gone up dramatically there. I saw a chart on it. Now, it might not have been the correct scale, but on the chart, it looked like the thing had doubled in price since launch.
Well,
and that's pretty extreme.
There's a factor of lack of competition, I guess. I mean, they don't like. I always say that, or we've both said that Nintendo, while a competitor, is not a direct competitor for a lot of the type of games that they put out there. So, yeah, if Xbox isn't a thing, and I have no idea what PC gaming is like in Japan, but if Xbox isn't a thing, then PlayStation has got the they've got the run of the farm for themselves, right?
Yeah, no, it'd be really bad for, I'll say, the high-end console market if Xbox isn't healthy. And I had never understood the idea of, it'll be great when Xbox is dead and they're just gone and it's just PlayStation. Very short-sighted and very stupid mentality. It's never good when you only have one strong player in an industry. You'll always see price creep. And right now, Xbox is guilty of it too. I mean, their prices aren't coming down. And you'd think it's just a sign of them not competing, I think. Mm-hmm. We're almost 4 years in. These things should be down in the $300 range. I don't believe it for a second that they're not making money on them. I've seen some stuff that would show that Sony's not making big money on them. And if they're not, I'm really confused as to what they're doing wrong, because the price on everything's come down. I mean, like GDDR6 memory from early February, I think it was let's just say early 2022 to June of 2023 was dropped by 75%. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a massive drop. It went to buy like, I think it was 8 gigs of RAM drop, and this is just GDDR6. So like if an AIB needed RAM or whatever, it went from over $100, like I think it was $110 US for 8 gigs, all the way down to $25. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a substantial decrease, right? And that combined with the decreases in NAND memory, like the flash memory or 3D NAND for the NVMe drives, that dropped by the same amount since launch. So two of the most expensive components in the things fell by, like, the bottom fell out of the market on them. They're super cheap. APU prices have come down too. Like, over time, wafer costs come down, yields go up, means your production cost overall comes down. Like, I don't get where this is coming from, but it's
Yeah,
and this is with inflation.
Yeah, the only thing I can say is that I understand that originally, first of all, I'm sure the production costs have come down 100%. But I understand they were selling Sony discs anyway. I don't know about Microsoft. They were selling them at such a loss. Maybe now they're just trying to recover some of the money that they lost initially.
There's a Sony announced in August 2021, so 10 months into the production run, that they were profitable on PS5 hardware.
Yeah.
So that doesn't tell me they were selling at a huge loss if just 10 months in they were making money on them.
I'm not sure. I believe everything these companies are telling me, to be honest. But
well, I don't believe they're losing money 4 years in. Mm-hmm. And a PS4 was profitable 6 months in. So,
yeah,
who knows? Who knows? But anyway, I think they're taking advantage of people feeling like, oh, technology is expensive, and expect it to get more expensive. That's what I honestly think they're doing. And people, as long as they keep buying them and paying the big bucks, why would they lower the price? But without any serious competition, and there's just isn't on the hardware front.
The other thing I would say as well, though, about, and it's not like that Sony won't take advantage of it for sure, but I don't think like we were saying earlier about Xbox not competing, etc., in some markets. I mean, there doesn't have to be a conspiracy theory involving Sony for that. Sony are just sitting back and watching Xbox, mixed messaging, as we talked many, many times. Okay, you guys do you. We'll just sit here and quietly lap up all the money that you guys are losing, right? So, but yeah.
No, it's a problem, and maybe we need a third entrant somehow into this console space and the high end side of it. Valve. If you want to build a Steam machine, we've talked about that before too. It would be nice to see something like that come back that could compete hard, especially with the PC crowd. Proton's so good now. Most games run quite well on Steam Deck. A lot of those games would run even better on a proper console. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. Who knows? But we should probably wrap it up. We are getting a little long in the tooth here with this one. It's, I guess, expected in a sense because we didn't do a show last week, so we kind of missed out for a week there, just with holidays and stuff and so on and so on. It just didn't happen. But so I think we've reached your favorite part of the show, Finn. Why don't you tell people where they can reach you?
You may get me on X at Fintintin with a 1 instead of the first I. You may get me on PlayStation Network, Steam, and Xbox using Fintintin, all alphabetical characters.
Right on. And I am at Mental9R on X. I am Mental9R on PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, and virtually everywhere you can play video games. And you are watching Caffeine Entertainment, and believe it or not, the vast majority of the people that watch this channel are not subscribed. So if you did enjoy our rambling and going on and on today, please hit the subscribe or the follow button if you're on Rumble. Even throw on a like. That would be great. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm Mental9R. He's Fintintin. This is Caffeine Entertainment. It's time to wake up and play some games.